Welcome to Common Ground from the Southern Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Program hosted at the University of Georgia. Sustainable agriculture stories from the Southern USA, which introduces you to farmers, ranchers, and those who support them, as well as innovative practices from around the Southern United States, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. Hi, I'm Dara Monifa Cooper, your communication specialist for the Southern Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Program, which is a USDA program, and we are housed in the College of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences at the University of Georgia. That's our host institution. I'm speaking today with Nicole Nunoo, and I'm going to let her explain more about herself and who she is. But just know that she is one of our awardees for our graduate student grant, and her grant program has completed. So she's going to share with us what she has learned from it and how she's been able to use the funding from Southern SARE to do the work that she's done in the community. So welcome, Nicole. Nice to see you again. It's been a minute.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to see you again. So a quick introduction about myself. Um, my name, of course, Nicole Nunoo, and I am originally from Ghana, which is my birthplace and where I find grounding for who I am and what I do, and the passion with which I attach to the work that I do. Yes, I did receive the grant from Southern SARE, which enabled me to, of course, complete my PhD work. And I got that PhD at Virginia Tech in Virginia, Plattsburgh, Virginia. And currently, I am with the University of Georgia, College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences as well, but in the Department of Crop and Soil Sciences. So yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Same. I'm happy to be here with you. And we met, my goodness, I think it was my first year at SARE. And I was so proud to see a young woman who is so passionate about doing the research that you're doing. Because as many people know, and some don't, the three pillars of sustainable agriculture for SARE include, yes, profitability for the farmer, environmental stewardship, but quality of life, which is a social sustainability piece that not everyone even understands how to put into research and the significance of it. So for you, we spoke about this a little bit before the first time when we spoke, when we actually had the interview with your advisor, Kim Newolny. Uh, but if you could just share again, like what brought you to wanting to do the study that you did?
Okay. So it's a journey. I mean, anytime I talk about this, I always have to start from the beginning, like the very beginning. So I never had any agricultural, background. For my undergrad degree, I got it in fine arts, so nothing agricultural related. But upon going to a part of Ghana that is known as an impoverished region of the country, I realized that the people were actually thriving, and they were thriving on food, on growing their own food. And so I would see people who were very old, 70, 75, and they were walking long distances, balancing firewood on their head. And it's like, why are these people called impoverished and deprived? I didn't understand, because I felt they were wealthy in health. Right. So that kind of triggered my mind into trying to understand agriculture from a different perspective, from a community development perspective. So the next thing I did was to sit in a plane and find myself here in the US to to try to further understand what that looked like. And which led me to my master's program at Tuskegee University. So that journey, that process got me to understand the embeddedness of race within the US system. And the moment I arrived on the shores of America, I suddenly got an identity as a Black woman, and also realized that that might impact my access to food. And for me, I love food. And so if anyone if anyone prevents me from having food, I'm like, hey, you're the enemy right now. Right. So I started trying to understand within the Black community, who are the leaders? Who are the people who have been resilient, who are making sure that their communities have healthy food? How are they doing it? What are some of the strategies that they are using to do the work? Want to uplift their voices and just to learn from them and to understand how they have been doing this work and how they have been the pillar for their communities. And so that is what really led me into my project. And thankfully, Sarah was there to cover me and to make sure that I was able to get this project done. Now, one of the most impactful things for me was the fact that I really wanted to make sure that the farmers were remunerated, because a lot of the time, farmers' knowledge is taken for granted. Their knowledge, their time is always taken for granted. And so to me, one of the core aspects of why I even ran to Sarah and said, hey, Sarah, I'm working on this project. I'm going to be working with Black farmer leaders in Virginia. Would you be able to assist me to get this work done? Was to make sure that their time was accounted for. And I mean, I wish I could have paid them more, but again, the just having that funding to be able to do that, to get that work done, was really important to me and highlighted the core of the value that I have for the people who feed us, the people who make sure that we are nourished. And first of all, the first and foremost thing is I'm a human before anything else, right? So if somebody is nourishing my body and making sure that I get all the nutrients I need, that person is my God. Right. So that really was a strong desire for me to want to pursue this particular project that I embarked on. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I understand. And it's good to be able to simplify this for those that think that everything related to research and academia is above the level of common understanding. And it's not, for those of us that have the ability or the skill to translate it in a way that everybody can understand, which you definitely have.
Mhm.
um, I'm grateful because more people who communicate and can translate, even if it's all in the same language, are needed. And you spoke about being able to compensate farmers for the value of their time and their experience and all of that. What other ways were you able to use SARE funding to get done the project that you did? And let's scroll back a little bit, but explain what your research project was and then how you were able to go about doing the research so that people can see the full picture from beginning to end. And of course, how you were able to use the funding to get those things done.
Okay. Yeah. So my research focused on understanding the experiences of Black farmer leaders and organizers in Virginia. Um, to get that work started, I had key informants. And even before that, anytime I went to conferences, I realized, those were some of the topics that were coming up, with Black farmers, saying, hey, we like, this is the kind of work that we're doing. We need a space to be able to share the kind of work that we're doing, right? So kind of got me interested in understanding, okay, so if these are the farmers who are feeding us and making sure that the community thrives, I just want to, hear their experiences and how they get the work done, right? What are some of the limitations? What are some of the obstacles? What are some of the success stories that they can share with me? And then again, of course, a larger group of people. And so that was basically what my project looked at. What the Sierra Grants was able to help me to do was one, of course, travel to interview the farmers, because again, most of them lived in different parts of Virginia. And at that time I lived in Blacksburg. And so to be able to travel to go interview farmers, I organized semi-structured interviews, in-person semi-structured interviews. I also organize focus groups. And so having the ability to attend those focus groups, to host or organize those focus groups were also very key to the success of this project. The other part is also just equipment, that would enable me to, like, for instance, recorders, right? Software to help me to analyze the data that I was collecting. So those are part of the things that the SARE grant was able to help me to get done. Yeah, but mainly a large part of the the funds went into remunerations for the farmers.
Okay. And what would you say is your conclusion based on the research that you did?
Hmm.
And I know
So
that it's not a final thing, and it
yeah.
it will go on. And I mean, and you can go into the next question that's coming to me in terms of like what should be next, or tangent to, or whatever,
Well, there were several findings that came out of this work. And I have shared some of them in different, at conferences and in different symposia that have been organized in the past, and still, like, on the verge of submitting, and then presenting the findings again in subsequent conferences. Now, one of the things that I realized was the need for Black farmers to keep organizing and form collectives or collaboratives that cater to the needs of Black farmers. Now, in the course of doing this work, I came into contact with one leader, Thelonious Cook, who was at the very beginning stages of starting the Mid-Atlantic Black Farmer Caucus. And we had a conversation, and that conversation really pushed something in him. He was like, you know what, Nicole, this is an idea that we've been having for some time now, that we need to come together as Black farmers to ensure that, hey, we have a collective, a group where we can share we can share resources. If anyone is going through challenges, we can be there for each other. And so we had a meeting. I was like, yeah, what do you need from me? Let's make this work. And I can say gladly that the Mid-Atlantic Black Farmer Caucus is now very functional, and they do a lot of work for and with each other. So that to me was a really inspirational moment for me, to think of the fact that, based on the kind of work that I was doing and based on some of the findings that came out of it, that a collective such as the Mid-Atlantic Black Farmer Caucus has sprung out of that. Right. It was really touching for me. And I always tell Thelonious, hey, I'm like, this is your work. This is what, you are the one who, even though you do say that you kind of, the inspiration kind of also came from part of the work that I was doing. This is your work. This is what, you're doing. But I'm glad that I was able to contribute to make that a reality. The other part of it is also that some of the participants indicated that there was a lack of an Afrocentric ag education within the academy, or within, institutions in general. And that was one of the problems that he believed, that if an issue like that is resolved, it would help to counter some of the let me backtrack. We know generally in the US, the agricultural sector has a grain population. Like, the age for most farmers is between 50, 70. It's just a grain population of people who are, involved in farming. And so there's this necessity for us to kind of encourage more youth to go into agriculture. However, one of the participants mentioned to me that it's a Herculean task to try to convince a Black youth to go into farming. And the reasons behind that is that when you look at even the agricultural curriculum that we have, it's not representative of anything that they know or they can they can agree to, right? So he had this notion that it would be good if there's an Afrocentric, agricultural education curriculum where Black youth can learn about George Washington Carver and the many things he did, like all the pioneers of agriculture that we have who are people of color, right? If they can see that these people also did really well in the agricultural space, then they would have this inner desire to also want to follow suit. So I mean, to me, I felt like that was really telling, right? That was really telling. That was something that was really telling for me from my study. And to encapsulate everything, I always say that one of the strategies that Black farmer organizers particularly are using is this weaving of networks. I don't know if you've seen a spider web before, but if you get closer to the spider and you look at the web that it weaves, those intricate webs that it weaves, the way it weaves its web is the way Black farmers have been organizing and getting the work done. They work through their networks, they work through people they know, they work through, and someone might ask, are they just working with only Black farmers? No, one of my participants actually mentioned that for him, it's about solidarity. Who is an ally and who is a foe? You need to know who your allies are. And so in doing this work, I realized that yes, there are some Black farmers, in fact, majority of them, who do have allies who do not necessarily identify as Black, but they also have, the same vision and mission as the Black farmers do. And so they work together to make sure that, they have, that their community have access to food, right? So those were some of the key things that I deduced from my study. Now I think you asked a question, what's the way forward, right? So what's the way forward? I mean, that I can answer that in a two-pronged way. So the first one, in terms of from a praxis perspective, for somebody who wants to go, who wants to work with Black farmer leaders, organizers, activists, and people who are at the center of the food justice, food sovereignty work within any state. If you're looking specifically at Virginia, what my research did was to really provide insights into how these Black farmers get the work done, the strategies that they are using, and they come from a place of humility in doing the work that they do. They also come from a place of wanting to uplift their ancestors' legacy. So if you want to go work with Black farmers or any community that identifies as a BIPOC community, you need to understand the things that matter to Black farmers, the things that matter to these communities, so that you do not go and try to force your notions or your ideas onto them, but understanding the core of what is at the heart of what they do and why, what drives them to do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's what my research, and again, I'll be publishing out of that. And so once that, all of those findings come out, you would have access to that. But you can build off of, what I have done. For someone who is interested in community development work from a perspective, you need to go into these spaces from a very, very humble background. Like, you need to be very humble and understand that these people they are emotionally attached to the work they do. And it's not just about the money for them. It's not just about the fame for them. No,
Mhm.
It goes at the core of who they are and the kind of legacy that they want to uplift and uphold, right, within their community. So that's one aspect. And from a research perspective, um, so I mainly focus because I use a key informant, and the key informant was someone who was already connected with a lot of the Black farmer leaders and organizers that I work with. I can say that it may be that I did not necessarily reach all the the Black farmers in the whole of Virginia. It may be that there were some who there were others who would have also contributed or added a different version or different vision to the work that I did. And so you would, if you wanted to take on this work, you would have to do much more kind of like sleuthing to make sure that you find other folks, um, or other participants beyond and besides the ones that I work with, and see how you can compare those perspectives. So that might be one area that somebody else might want to carry on with.
Thank you. I mean, I think the points that you just touched on had quality of life all over it. And I keep connecting it to what our mission is at Southern SARE, because we're about sustainable agriculture research and education. It's not one without the other. The research helps to inform others. It helps to inform yourself as you learn based on whatever you're hypothesizing, yes, but it also helps to inform others. And so we want to be able to share the results of all of the different types of research that are funded by the SARE program. So where would someone, I know you haven't published everything yet, but the latest of what you have published would be found where at this point?
If you if you go to Virginia Tech Libraries, you would find the the entire 200 and something page dissertation over there. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna get a link to that to make sure that we can share that with folks.
Yes.
And um, you mentioned also something that brought to mind Michael Carter and Africulture, which I know is someplace at the beginning of your story with this. So I did want to kind of Sankofa and go back to that for a minute and let you share that piece and the significance of where you see what that work is, what you were able to benefit from that, and how you see those things tying together. And we'll wrap up with that, and then you could also share your contact information.
Yeah. So you're referring to Michael Carter's work with Africulture and my work. Yeah. So I mean, Michael Carter, of course, has been very instrumental in my work, in my personal work, and I've worked with him for, I mean, all this time. What Michael is doing, I think Michael is he's sprinting, like, with the work, trying to educate a lot of the youth about the contributions of Africans and people of African descent to agriculture in general, right? Because to him, he's also coming from an ancestral legacy perspective, where he says that before there was me, there was them, and they laid these paths for me so that I can be who I am today. So I need to celebrate what they have done and let people know that, hey, we didn't just come from nothing. These are the paths that our ancestors have led before us.
Mm.
And so his work also contributes extensively and significantly to my findings and I what I did, or my work, in the sense that at a certain point, I wanted to one of the questions I was asking was, why do you, I mean, there are several professions out there right, that you could be making money out of, like, why do you do this? And a response that came was, look, I didn't set out to be an organizer. I didn't set out to want to be an activist or do all of this, struggle and all of that. I just wanted to be a farmer just to grow food.
Mhm.
But as I encounter some of the challenges and the discrimination and the issues within the food system specifically, it became a priority. It became something that I just had to take up that role to become an educator, to become an organizer, to let people know that, hey, our ancestors laid the foundation for us. So all we need to do is step into those foundations that they've led for us and also create, continue with that legacy and move on so that future generations can also have something to lead with. So his work definitely connects with the work that I did or I have done.
I see. And I know initially you told me how that you all met and that he introduced you to your advisor for the
My
sale.
advisor, exactly. Yes.
But how exactly did you meet? Because I'm not sure if I was clear on that.
Okay. Yeah. So we met at PAWC. That's a professional ag workers conference hosted by Tuskegee University. And so he was one of the attendees to the conference, and I was there because Tuskegee University, that's my school. So he was there, and when he was talking, he mentioned that he had lived in Ghana or he had just returned from Ghana. And I'm from Ghana, and I was like, oh, whoa, okay. So that was where the connection was. And he was he was farming, he was heavily involved in the agricultural space in Ghana. And so a lot of that knowledge that he had from Ghana, he also infused and imbibed those into what he teaches in his Africulture, syllabus and all of that. Yeah. So a lot of the work that he does with Africulture are things that resonates with me because most of them also goes back to practices that we've had or we have back in Ghana.
I
Right.
see.
So that was where the connection came in. And then again, of course, when I mentioned my interest in doing this kind of work, he introduced me to my advisor, and then the rest is history.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. These are wonderful truths. I was going to say stories, but these are wonderful truths that you've been able to live in doing this work at a very high academic level, integrating all of the social nuances and everything that come with introducing yourself as an African in the North American continent of the US. And I remember Michael mentioning something to me about what he found significant about your approach is that, and you mentioned it earlier, but looking at some of the racial matters that you were not familiar with, and
Mhm,
people would just automatically assume that you are because you look like the others who
mhm.
are in North America, but that's something that I think is very telling, and it's a teaching tool that we can use to show that a lot of what exists for reasons before our time, and it has nothing to do with who we are and who we are together as well as individually. So I'm grateful to learn from you what you've been able to put into your research that will help multiple people, I'm sure. So for those who may be interested in communicating with you, what is the contact information that they should reach you at?
Yes. So my email is Nicole.Nunoo at uga.edu. So it's Nicole Nicole dot Nunoo. Nunoo is NUNOO at uga.edu. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. And thank you so much for making the time. I
Sure.
know doing your postdoc that you're still under the fire and doing a whole lot now that you are at the University of Georgia,
Yeah.
up in the Athens area. Um, and I was interested when I noticed that you had switched from Virginia Tech
Mhm.
and concluded your studies there and are now at the University of Georgia. I'm interested to follow your career and what you do in academia, yes, but also socially in the community as you continue doing the work that goes beyond the SARE grant that allowed you to do this research in Virginia with Black farmers. So thank you again for making the time and just for being you and doing what you're obviously passionately led to do. We will continue to share your work in hope that other students that may have an interest in the social sustainability, the quality of life portion of our sustainable agriculture definition, uh, will take the advantage of the SARE programs, graduate student grants, work with an advisor at their universities, and find other ways to utilize the grants to do work, whether it's on the practical sense or on the psychological, community awareness and health and all the various topics surrounding sustainable agriculture. We just really want to thank you for continuing to do your work and helping us to encourage others to you know, take a stab at doing the same for themselves and for everyone else. So
Yeah.
thank you. And
Thank
I
you
look
so
forward to connecting with you now that you are at UGA as well.
much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And yeah, to any students who would want to reach out to me again, I mean, I'm ever ready and available to make time just to talk you through the process. I mean, sometimes the biggest limitation is our minds, where we limit ourselves from taking opportunity. And when I also heard about Southern Stair, the grants, I was like, I don't think I qualify. But then I think, I mean, just talking to people who have done it before, talking to, you know, just emailing and saying, hey, I saw this. I think I even spoke with you one time, like, do you think I qualify? But then you're like, yeah, sure, go for it. So, I mean, Brennan Washington was somebody I also reached out to. Just, reaching out and just asking some of these questions would alleviate your, all the limitations that you have in your mind. So it's doable. I have been able to do it. And so you can also do it. So
Definitely. And that's one of the things I hear the most too, that the SARE program, as small of a staff as we are, we're very accessible. It's
yeah,
not like what a lot of the other experiences are with some of the much larger USDA programs. So while we are a USDA program, we're more of a grassroots oriented program. And that's why we're able to reach out in the way that we are, travel around and come and physically see and meet with the farmers and the students and others throughout the southern region, from up in Virginia, where we met with you, down to Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, and over to Texas and Oklahoma, just that whole area in there. And it's it's some of the most fulfilling work I've ever been a part of. So I'm truly grateful to be able to continue to spread the word on these grant opportunities, but also the professional development opportunities. Um, and maybe sometimes people don't get the opportunity to go to certain conferences like you have been able to. And I know Michael Carter has actually brought many farmers who've never been able to attend certain things to various conferences with SARE professional development funding and travel scholarships and other things like that. So there's so much. And then the educational resources. When you're ready to publish something, just know that SARE has various publications, some from the research that's been done within SARE, but also from our partners that we make available for free. So there's so many possibilities for people to utilize the SARE program, the Ag Leadership Program for those in the community already doing work and already teaching others in their neighborhoods and things. There's a lot. So I'm going to throw the website address down below, southernsare.org. And for more information, definitely also stay connected with us on social media at Southern Sare on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and a little bit of TikTok, just a little bit, so that we can continue to find people who don't know that Southern Sare exists also on LinkedIn. So thank you again, Nicole. I love speaking with you. I know we could go on forever, but I'm sure we'll touch base again soon. And who knows, Nicole, maybe someday you will be the advisor for another student who is interested in a SARE or other grant, maybe while you're there at UGA or wherever else you end up. So I look forward to that, and definitely just want to thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you. I appreciate Sarah a lot. I'm going to make sure I'm an ambassador for Sarah so that, yeah, so I can spread the good word. Yeah, you guys are awesome.
Thanks so much.
All right, sure.
Learn more about research grants and sustainable ag resources at southernSARE.org/grants. And remember to stay updated, make sure you're subscribed to our Common Ground newsletter and podcasts, and following us on social platforms at Southern SARE. Standing on common ground, let's grow together using the pillars of sustainable agriculture.